Hi, I just completed a 2-week trip to the East Coast and it was really interesting and full of a million fabulous things to learn and to observe. And I invite you to take a look at the pages of my travel journal. I started with a blank journal that this is the back of the Moleskin Art watercolor notebook. And when I came home and finished all my pages, then I added my collage cover and I wrote on the side here with an acrylic pen. I usually always start a travel journal by leaving a couple of pages blank so that I can fill in the itinerary after I return, because I've had enough experience with trips being canceled, delayed, or rerouted. So I wait to do this until I come back. And you'll notice that I have little bits of decorative tape. When I was working on my journal at home after the trip, I observed a lot of sort of empty spaces on the pages, and this is kind of a graphic way to tie in everything. So it begins with a bunch of meeting up with people in DC and all our different flights, and then our first day, we had a great tour of the Supreme Court, and I did this from memory. I didn't have all this there, so I did this part from memory. We went to the Library of Congress, and it's an overwhelmingly gorgeous environment. So I just sat there and sketched the people who were observing the beauty and some architectural details. When I'm working on my travel journal, I'm just trying to grab bits and pieces so that I anchor the experience. So I'm capturing the memories. So the architectural details in DC are just fabulous. And here is the decorative tape filling up some blank space. We went to the National African American Museum, which is amazing and a must-see. And there too, after being totally saturated, I just sat in the lobby for a little while and I used a watercolor pencil and then added water to blend it in. And the people watching is fabulous. The next day we went to the museum, and again, decorative tape to kind of tie it all in graphically. And when I'm in a museum, sometimes I just look for one or two things that just grab me and that I can record in my book. These were paintings that were done on site where I sketched them out in pen and added the color later that night at the hotel room. So I sketched that out. I kind of like the helicopter and the boat. And again, some decorative tape along with the writing. Another museum, sitting in front of that painting. It's not that I was particularly looking towards sitting in this section, but it had a great couch. And so I could do a lot of people watching and grab their postures and their gestures, looking at the different art or maps or whatever. And again, colored pencil, which I added water to later, and pen. Then we went to hear a wonderful musician, my son, at the duck pond that has all these red rocking chairs. That was a lot of fun. And some fabulous dogs that I did just in pen and then added a little shadow later, but that was really fun to capture. And one night we played with fonts and did a page of that, and here's how I attached a business card so I could turn it over again with that decorative tape. Then we were at the beach at this fossil area that was just fabulous, and then went the next day to Durham, North Carolina, where there were so many gorgeous birds. And that was the VRBO we stayed in. Now here's a cheat page. So we went to graduation. I started to paint out the figures. I could not get the faces. I was so frustrated and rather embarrassed because they looked horrible. So I took a photograph that I printed off on my home printer, and it was just the exact right size. So I'm showing you where I cheated. I glued down the portraits, the faces, and you can see the background there where I started to paint the caps. And I'm so much happier with this page than my own effort to get their skin tones correct and get the portraits done. So that's a good cheat to remember. You can always glue things on top of something if you're not crazy about it. Now we're in New Orleans, and really quick architectural rendering. And then these vignettes. Here's one where I glued part of a business card in, and the vignettes just to capture these moments and to remember what we saw there. This was in the hotel lobby. We went on a swamp tour. It was absolutely wild and super fun. And then we went to the Whitney Plantation, where it's a fabulous, fabulous, important museum and historic rendering of what really did happen with the enslaved people. It was really wonderful. And I'd never seen sugarcane before, so I drew the sugarcane and did a journal entry. And again, piece of the same washi tape or decorative tape to fill the space, Lake Pontchartrain, and the dragonflies that are huge. And then the map of leaving New Orleans and driving, this is still New Orleans, this is Lake Pontchartrain and where we were. I love putting maps on. This is just from memory, so it's clearly not accurate, but I just wanted to capture this street, Magazine Street, and all the different sites that we saw along Magazine Street in New Orleans. And how can you forget the gorgeous sunsets in New Orleans? And then this was in Montgomery. We drove from New Orleans up through Biloxi to get to Montgomery. And early morning in Montgomery in Starbucks, observing the people. This one I did by painting in the shape first. And then when that dried, I went over it, and it dried very quickly in the coffee shop. And then I went over it with pen to capture the gesture. Same thing here. I was having a hard time doing the profile, so I did the big shape and then went over it with pen to try to get the profile a little more satisfying. And then the Rosa Parks Museum and the Legacy Museum, amazing places to visit and very important. And I purposely left that blank. It was really a quiet, meditative time there. And again in Montgomery, and this beautiful river walk in Montgomery, loved it. And then we went from Montgomery up to Birmingham on the Civil Rights Trail, and this is the Civil Rights Institute, and just a portion of a menu in a restaurant. I'd never seen pig ear sandwiches listed before, and I wanted to capture that, so I just did a portion of the menu. And then the 16th Street Baptist Church, just a section of it. Again, this was so meaningful and so touching and so much to capture that just to capture the moment, I really had to simplify and just do portions, that amazing stained glass window. And now the rest of this is just my process, and also these little tiny photographs of the people that I was traveling with, just to remember them and record them as well. And then processing my experience, and I love adding lists to my travel journals, the fried foods I met, the purchases, the shoe thoughts, and clothing thoughts, just to kind of add some lists. And then some things that I picked up along the way. I created a little strip that created a pocket there and a flip for that postcard. And then again, a pocket for that. And here's more detailed itinerary. This was, again, just added on, and more detailed itinerary with some other thoughts. And then the end of the book, the reason I like Moleskines and some others is because they come with an envelope at the end. So that was the trip. This is the decorative tape that I was working with, and if I have a blank page like this, I would just add maybe some decorative tape just to fill it up and graphically tie it into the other pages. So that's the trick that came with the journal flip through. I have many other flip throughs on YouTube from various places where I've traveled. If you like them, please like below and subscribe. Thanks.